Are we on or
We are. I'm refreshing my browser to
You
make
you
sure.
you
So it's
are
just showing
live.
upcoming right now.
great?
And then we'll be
You
going
are
live.
live.
I'll let you know once on
We're on
YouTube that it's
YouTube.
actually like live.
Well, I probably should start saying something then, right?
You're welcome to
Hope,
if you
We're
want.
on
hope,
YouTube. We're on X. We're on Rumble, and we're
great.
on my website. So
Hopefully some people are tuning in now. This is Frank Mylar, candidate for Utah State Attorney General. And if those of you that are joining right now have already joined, we'll just wait a few minutes, but I want to at least thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on. We're really coming down to the wire. And so if there's any, pivotal questions that you have whatsoever, I would love to be able to answer those and talk with you about them. We don't always agree with everything that people ask me. I talked to a gentleman this morning who was definitely more liberal than I on certain areas, but as we talked through different other areas, he was in total agreement with a lot of the positions that I do have. And so I think that's the key, is that I want you to feel comfortable voting for me, that you know that I'm going to do the right thing, even though you don't agree 100%. Hopefully you'll agree that I'm someone that really looks at things very carefully and passionately fight for the things I believe in. I'll give a little bit of a background, then we'll run into it. I've been married over 36 years to my wife, Debbie, and she's been a tremendous help on this campaign. And I've also been helped by Aaron Boyce, our campaign manager here off to the side. And I have 5 adult children that have all graduated from college, and I have 6 grandchildren. And those uh, 5 children are mostly out of the home, so it gives me a lot more free time. In that I'm not going to basketball games and soccer games as much as I used to. But hopefully there's been enough time for everyone to kind of start clocking on. I
A
think
little
I'll
bit.
start.
We have some viewers for sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I might want to start talking about the Supreme Court action today. This is something that my competitors, it's speculation and theoretical. When they talk about Supreme Court, it's what someone else did. When I talk about it, many times it's what I've done. I was part of the Hobby Lobby case that was won against some Obamacare, trying to force abortion on a private Christian company, Hobby Lobby. I represented people like Chick-fil-A and some other companies that also were Christian companies that took the same position in that Hobby Lobby had. But today, I'm pleased to be part of a case that I was asked to be involved in this. And I was another one of these things where I said, how do I have time to do this? And I needed to make time when I heard about the facts of the case. This was the case about the 7-county coalition that wants to actually transport waxy crude oil across Utah and out to sell it. It's one of the most environmentally friendly petroleums anyone could ever transport. But guess what? It wasn't enough for the DC Circuit Court of Appeals to say, no. You have to consider every hypothetical issue that could ever come up environmentally, which was actually way beyond the scope of the agency that they were dealing with. That agency said that they fulfilled all environmental requirements. And so I literally said in my brief that I filed, saying that this was essentially gut this great program and prevent Utah from being able to benefit in the employers. And I was representing the Utah AFL-CIO, who said, hey, we want good paying jobs for people, especially in the Uinta Basin, where there's very low paying jobs. And we want to be able to have some prosperity like they do in Texas and Oklahoma, at least in that area in the Uinta Basin. And it is an outrageous example of federal encroachment on our land, because again, it's about our land that is being owned by the federal government, and we got to change that. So that was just granted today, that the U.S. Supreme Court will hear that case, and we're praying and hoping that they will reverse it. But anyway, that is super exciting, because it is very, very, very hard to get the Supreme Court to hear a case when you bring a case. It's what's called certiorari. So
I'm curious, Frank,
Mhm.
do any of your competitors have that kind of experience of being able to make briefs to the Supreme Court like that? Is that pretty common for everybody in this race?
No, I mean, one has never done it. The other did it years ago,
Hmm.
when he was working in DC because he was in the
Hmm.
appellate group. And so he undoubtedly did these kinds of things. But it was like when you're a young attorney, it's radically different. You're not the only name on the brief. There might be 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people on that brief with you,
Yep.
and so as a young attorney, one of my opponents did do those things.
Hmm.
But just for a year or two, and then he went into politics and worked for different politicians most of his entire career. And so it's pretty radically different.
Yeah.
This isn't something that they've done. They've never fought federal encroachment in the federal courts. It's all theoretical to them.
Gotcha. So let's get to some questions real quick.
Great.
First off, why are you running?
Yes. So when I found out Sean Reyes wasn't running, I mean, there's some pros and cons with Sean Reyes. He did some things right, did some things that I didn't like, and I would do differently. But when he announced that he wasn't running, a couple of people were already in the race, and I looked at him. I said, "This is crazy. They have hardly any legal experience, and more importantly, they have no experience fighting for people's constitutional rights." And I said, that is not who we need as the AG. Politics will control it. If they don't know the area of law, someone is going to tell them what their decisions need to be. And it will not be their legal minds because they just simply haven't come across most of these legal issues. Most of the legal issues that I will face as Attorney General, I've already faced it either when I worked in the AG's office 12 years or when I've been in private practice for over 24 years. And many times I've been dealing with governmental entities in constitutional cases. And so to me, it's going to be very easy transition. And I actually can hit the ground running just because I'm already doing those sorts of things. So it's really my passion for fighting for people's constitutional rights, and that nobody running has that. And I mean, no one running on any side of the aisle, independent, constitutional. Well, there's one guy that's running. He's not the independent party. He has some experience that's a little better than my competitors, but still not very much experience in fighting for people's constitutional rights. Certainly, the Democrat doesn't. And so this is really important. If you have never fought for people's constitutional rights, especially when you're not getting paid,
Yeah.
it's not likely you really give a rip about those rights, and you're just trying to give platitudes to get elected, and that's
Yeah.
just not who we need as the Attorney General.
That's good. We're getting some comments here, so I'll read one of them to you. Diane
Great.
just asked, isn't there a management issue as well? How many attorneys are there in the AG's office?
I love this question because there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding our experience. I want you to write this down because this is absolutely the truth. I am the only attorney in this race who's managed attorneys in the AG's office and managed them outside the AG's office. I called one of my competitors on this, and this competitor said, "Oh, no, I was in a trial and I was the lead attorney." No. I'm sorry. I've been the lead attorney many times too. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about hiring and firing. I'm talking about being actually a supervisor. They have zero experience supervising any attorney in terms of being over them. Working with them on a case, being the lead attorney, that doesn't cut it. That's not it. One of my competitors, she did actually work in the AG's office. That's great, but she was only assistant attorney general. Never arose above that the entire time she was there. Within a few years, I was actually a section chief. Then I was counsel for corrections. Then I was actually director of legal affairs for the Department of Corrections. In that capacity, I supervised numerous investigators, numerous attorneys, and it was probably around somewhere over 30. It was legislative affairs, it was grievances, it was employee grievances, prisoner grievances. It was a big deal. It was over 30 people that I was actually supervising. Several of them were attorneys, and many of them were investigators. And so I actually know some of the investigators that sometimes have been in the AG's office because I defended them when they were at the Department of Corrections. But this is the other thing. where I really is a drastic difference. I'm the only one that actually has a master's in business administration. I've actually taken courses on management. I actually know what that means. When I took that MBA program, they talked about a concept about management by wandering around. This is significant because we talked about how Sam Walton, how he actually would go to every store. He had like 700 stores, and you'd go to every one a year. I want to go to every department and division every year in that AG's office. I want to know who they are. I want to know how I can help them. I want to know if there's a bad apple. I want to talk to them. I want to hear what their problems are, what their concerns are, whether they need more training, because I think they do need more training sometimes, and they're not getting it. They're not getting a voice. I'm actually going to be the first attorney general who actually takes seriously the idea of managing attorneys. Honestly, the last several attorneys general, I think they're supposed to sit on a silk cushion and be political. No, actually, a significant function is to actually manage attorneys in that office. I've had my own law firm. And let me just tell you about that. Most attorneys that you'll run into could not start up their own law firm and be successful. It's just a fact. Most of them don't. Most of them would never take that gamble, that risk, and go out, which I did. And I started off just with one attorney, and then it went up and down, and then I got several attorneys, and and so this is something that. By God's grace, I actually have an extremely successful small law firm that I've managed, over the years. I've had to deal with budgets. I've had to make sure that we can employ people during ups and downs. I never, ever laid anyone off. I did have to fire an employer or two that was doing things inappropriately. One was using marijuana. And that isn't going to work when I defend a lot of sheriffs. So in any event, that is huge. The fact that I've actually managed successfully my own law firm, but I've managed attorneys inside and outside the office.
Yeah. I have another question here. As far as we would both admit that the Attorney General's race is probably not the most prominent one that people think about right away, right?
That's true.
So when you're thinking about a flow chart in the government of Utah, where is the Attorney General? Is the Attorney General under the governor, or
Nope.
what happens there?
This is very, very important for people to understand.
Yeah.
If you looked at the governor is the head of state, so to speak. But the AG is like a straight line off to the side who's completely independent, just like you have on a county level, you have a sheriff that's independent, except for it's actually more so than that, because in some ways the sheriff is under the county commission, but Attorney General isn't under anyone else. There's no executive in the state that is over the Attorney General. We have a certain area, and it's law. And some of that's criminal law, which, by the way, I'm the only candidate with significant and substantial criminal law experience. They try to pretend like it is. They try to say an administrative prosecution, which is not a criminal prosecution. It's administrative. They try to say that that's a prosecution. It's not. Don't be deceived by language that they use. But so the AG's office is supposed to give independent advice, not supposed to be owned by the governor, by the legislator, by Congress. It's actually very important that they can actually give good, independent legal advice. And that's what I've been doing for over 37 years.
Yeah. I'll ask a couple more questions here. There are a few more coming in, so I am processing through some of these. Diane had a quick follow-up. How many employees are there, though, Frank, in the AG's office? Was there a number?
Yeah, there is. And let's be candid. All three of us in this race have never managed anything as big as this office. That's the truth. It's over 500 employees, over 300 attorneys. Now, why do I believe I can do it? Well, one, I have done it a lot more than they have. And in terms of management of attorneys, management of investigators, management of paralegals, actually hiring and firing paralegals and attorneys. I'm the only one in this race that's ever had to do that. And so is it going to be more? Yeah, I think one of my competitors she's basically in a self-insured office. It's risk management. It's like State Farm. Um, and she manages, I think she said, a staff of 30. So that's somewhat similar to what I did, except for what I did was significantly more focused on actual criminal prosecutions, dealing with the criminal justice system. And also I actually managed attorneys as attorneys, not just worked with them because they were in the AG's office. So that's very, very important.
Yeah. I will ask a little bit of a longer question here. Frank, I shot you a text really quickly while I'm asking that.
All right. I'll try to look at that while I'm listening.
Yeah, sorry about that. Some internal. So while I'm asking this question, this is one that's been coming up, Frank, even more recently, and it has to do with balance of powers within the office.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there are 47 states who do not have their attorneys general appointed by the governor. Is that the right number?
I don't know if that's the right number.
Okay.
It's overwhelming. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
quite that high. It could be.
Well,
But
something that came across with us with a recent endorsement for one of your competitors was a little bit of a concern in terms of the office of AG staying independent and not being an appointed position. Can you speak to your concerns about that?
Yeah. One of my competitors was endorsed by the governor before anyone entered the race. So you have to think about that. That's very interesting. And in fact, before Sean had said he was not in the race. And so in fact, the lieutenant governor was his finance co-chair, and the former governor was on his chair. All these people are lining up behind this person, and yet he's hardly practiced law at all. Very, very concerning. Those combination, one, the lack of practicing law, and two, being controlled by the governor's office. The other one is a political appointed position of the governor in risk management. She works for the governor. And that's fine, except for the fact that if you're going to be the attorney general, you're not supposed to be beholden to those people. And also, this person also worked for Sean Reyes. And again, Sean Reyes did some things well. He didn't do some things well. You shouldn't be so tied to that group that you don't feel like you can act independent. I'm actually truly the only one that's independent, not tied to special interest, and actually can represent the citizens of the state of Utah, because I'm the only one that really keenly understands my job is representing the state of Utah.
Yeah.
And the people of the state of Utah.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really helpful.
Yeah, I don't mind answering this one question. Should I take
that?
Somebody asked about, that, Trent Christensen, he lost at the state convention. I won at the state convention by the first round was 43%. Rounding up, his was about 9%. I never asked him for anything at that convention. There was a text that was sent that was garbled and mixed up, and it was not what I intended. I intended to ask him to help me in my campaign because I thought he had already dropped out. The Utah State Bar thankfully investigated this promptly. They did not even call me, and they said there is nothing to this. There's no substance to it, and we are dismissing it outright, without even getting my side of things. I think that's very, very significant, because that's a problem. That's a preponderance of an evidence standard. That's a civil standard that they're using, which is much lower. And no one's ever contacted me about this since then.
Yeah.
I do believe it's a complete non-issue. It was, it was not what I had intended. What I intended was that I thought he had dropped out because he couldn't pass the bar.
Yeah.
And another opponent told me he's not going to pass the bar because I got the list. And she told me there's no way he can pass it even in the summer. And so I go, well, that's why he's missed the last 9 days of the campaign. And so there was kind of feeling sorry for him, but he's a great orator. I would say that he is the best orator among us all, even though he never passed the bar. And so in any event, that's a done deal. It was something that I had retracted when I realized how that was worded. And I don't know, hopefully I'm not the only one that sends a text and realize what in the world, that's not exactly what I intended. Hopefully there's some people out there that are listening that have fallen into that trap, especially when I'm in trial. Most people don't have a grasp of how all consuming trial is. Let me tell you, there's no room for campaigning when you're in a 12-day trial. Although the week before I actually did some campaign things, but I couldn't that week. My wife had to, Aaron had to, my daughters did. They were all campaigning for me because it was all consuming day and night. So yeah, so thankfully that is under the bridge and it's not an issue. What's the next question?
Appreciate that question, Paul. Thank you. I think the last one, you kind of already have been doing this the entire time, is what sets you apart. Let me rephrase it really quickly. What do you think would set you apart in terms of, okay, we can just play the imagination game really quickly.
Sure.
When one of these folks gets into office, what would set you apart once you get into the office from the rest of your competitors? What can we expect?
Yeah. First of all, I'm actually the only one with criminal law experience and criminal justice experience, and it's extensive. It's extensive. I was there when the Tele was executed in the firing squad in 1996. I was the appointee of the Attorney General, Jan Graham, at the time of that execution. If there was any issues regarding appeal, Supreme Court calls from anyone legal, I would have been the one to take it. I was there to make sure that the procedures were proper and everything. That's just one example. I've had my first criminal felony fraud prosecution less than 2 years out of law school. But one of the things I'll do is there's some issues in the criminal law area, and I want to fix those. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm not going to air them right now, but I'm very concerned with some things that have gone on there. There's some good things that are going on as well. But I'm going to get to know the office. I know some of the office because I work with them. I work with them on a daily basis because they are part of lawsuits that I'm joined in. And so I especially deal with the people in the litigation division quite a bit, which is the only people that risk management deals with, by the way. That's only 1/3 of the office. The other third is criminal work. The other third is agency counsel. And so one of my competitors did work in the AG's office, and that's excellent, but she's only been in litigation, and that's the only issues area of the office she's dealing with now. And I've been literally throughout the entire office. So I know this office. I'm going to go around. I'm not going to say you guys all have to come to Salt Lake. I don't even know if they know this. There's a lot of satellite offices, St. George, Vernal, all over the state. There are offices, Box Elder County, different places. And I will go to all of them. And I want to see their offices. I want to see what they need. I do that as a boss where I am now. You know, sometimes I've talked to people and they said, "Hey, I think I could be more productive if I had another monitor." I got them another monitor. I never have used 2 monitors. Actually, I have one big one, but and it actually made me get a bigger one because I thought, well, that's productive, but I don't want to have 2 monitors. Some got desks that stand up. So that's just part of managing the office. That's radically different that I will do. But this is a huge distinction that I want everyone to really listen to, because this has been asked on debates, the St. George debate and other debates, the debate on the TV televised debate from the University of Utah as well. They ask who the client is, who do you represent? I want to tell you that the radical difference about my leading that office is I will instill in all of the staff, from secretary to attorney to paralegal to investigator, that we at all times always represent the people of the state of Utah. Now that means if we didn't do anything wrong, we should not be willy-nilly settling cases for thousands of dollars like they do right now. Risk management pays out lots of money on cases they shouldn't be paying out because there's no way they can lose. How do I know that? Because I'm on the case and the sheriff, I'm representing the sheriff and they're representing the state. And I'm saying, you guys did 0 wrong here. 0, 0, 0. Why are you paying 80 grand or 100 grand? I mean, those are examples, 80 grand and 100 grand and 50 grand, 3 examples that I know of personally where they wasted money. The other part of that is if we didn't do anything wrong, I fight it all the way, and I have jury trials. My competitors have never had a jury trial, which means that either they're afraid, which a lot of attorneys are, or they just settle it so it doesn't go to trial, even though the case should have gone to trial for the jury to determine whether this is worth anything. So that's one thing that's important to me. The other thing is if we do something wrong, we should compensate it. We shouldn't just hide it, just fight this to the death. We've done that with DCFS, fighting cases we shouldn't be fighting. We need to be able to change mid-course. When I was a prosecutor in the AG's office and I found out that my evidence evaporated, there's only one thing you can do. There's only one thing you should do. You dismiss the charges. You don't try to extort, some sort of a lesser plea when you know you have zero case. And I think that happens a lot in the AG's office. I actually found that the Medicaid fraud unit was doing that back in 1998, 1999. I actually was part of working with the Department of Health. I came up with a physician's bill of rights because they were extorting money out of physicians. I mean, 100 grand out of physicians for coding errors. They didn't do the coding. They had accountants do this coding, and I actually got the attorney in charge of that fired because it was outrageous how he was abusing his prosecution authority over these doctors. We got a bill of rights that I drafted up for doctors that they could have when the state tries to come after them. And the state and the AG's office and the doctors, UMA, all agreed to it. So that's an example where I actually, representing the people does mean if you do something wrong, you own it. I've done that in private practice. I've done that in the AG's office when I worked in the AG's office.
Good. Two quick follow-up questions, and this is news to me as well. I forgot about this. So the AG's office, so the AG doesn't just work out of Salt Lake City. There are other offices everywhere. And why would there be other offices in different parts of the state?
Absolutely. There's different things that are going on. Do you think you could just run down to St. George, run down to Cedar City, run down to Vernal, run down to, it'd be crazy. Then we have to give them hotels. And plus, it makes sense that the people live where they're working, and so there's significant offices of there. It started off with, I think, child support offices, and then Division of Child and Family Services offices, and then some prosecutions, and then the university system. So you have somebody that's representing, Dixie University, I don't know what the name of it is now. It's Tech College or something, whatever the name is, they changed it to. But in any event, there's somebody who represents that. And then there's someone, Utah State University, they're doing legal work for those universities. It makes no sense for them to actually be in Salt Lake. And so there are a number of satellite offices, yes, and that is to the good of the people. If we can do it more, I will, because I want us to be responsive to the people around where they are.
Maybe one last question, because it kind of riffs off of a question that was followed up as well. So if the AG is not just working for the state, but also the citizens, how accessible do you want the AG's office to be? And what would that even look like? How does a normal person who doesn't know law what kind of case would someone like me bring to the AG's office?
Excellent. No, this is something that, again, where I'm radically different than my opponents. And I'll tell you why. One, people actually call me all the time and I give them free legal advice. During COVID, people called me, said, hey, can our church meet? Can our private religious school meet? I said, yes, you can. And this is why. And I explained it to them. And I said, I'll help defend it if you get sued without charging. I also got COVID religious exemptions to the vaccine. These are things that I do, but people call me all the time, even during this campaign. Some people don't even know I'm running for Attorney General, and they say, I got a First Amendment claim. I was exercising my free speech right. And I go, wow, this is a really good claim, but I'm actually running for Attorney General right now. But I'm going to do something that's radically different. And I worked in a law firm in Milwaukee when I was in law school one summer. And there was a guy named Alan Eisenberg, and he had this radio show called Ask Alan Eisenberg. And basically, this show was that if you had any legal issue whatsoever, you could just call in, and I want to do that at least once a month, where there's a call in and ask the Attorney General. And I don't care what the legal issue is. Now, yes, I'll have the disclaimer saying I don't represent you. Yes, this is just an off-the-cuff opinion. Yes, I do not know all the facts, but I'm giving them some guidance. And you can bet that a lot of the guidance might be, you need to call an attorney for this. You need an attorney. And I can't tell you how many times, especially on this campaign, when I can't be their attorney, I say, you need an attorney. Actually, just 2 days ago, someone called me from Utah County, and it was a pretty desperate situation regarding a guardianship. And I was able to tell that person, wow, this is very serious. It looks like there's significant misconduct, and you cannot navigate this without an attorney. It's terrible because some of them charge an arm and a leg, which is why I didn't charge for a lot of the cases. Because if you want to fight these cases, it could be like one case that I took to the Utah Supreme Court. It would have cost this single mom $250,000. She couldn't pay it, and I was able to do it because thank God I had a successful law firm. So I had 5 kids, and thankfully we were able to eat and have a house. So, we didn't go bankrupt, but it's the matter of the fact that money isn't the most important thing to me. And I've proven that in my life, my lifestyle. And I'm going to have this idea that I want the public to come forward with questions and information. I'm also going to have somebody dedicated at the AG's office to actually answer questions. And I want them to get back to every one of them. Sometimes people tell me I called the AG's office and I never heard back, and it went into this black hole and they never heard of it again, and they call again and they don't remember they don't have any record of it. So I want us to log them. I want us to follow up. And is there going to be some bogus complaints? Sure. Yeah. But you know what? There's going to be some real ones too. And I want them to be dealt with. I want people to feel like they can go to the AG's office and have their rights vindicated.
I think a lot of people think that they have zero recourse, especially people who don't have a lot of money and don't know anything about the legality and the politics of any of these kind of circumstances. So that's super helpful. What we're going to do right now is we're going to pull up our website, and I wanted to ask you one last question as we're doing that, Frank. Just the election's tomorrow, the primary is tomorrow. What can people be doing right now that support you? Some ideas at the home stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want everyone to really pray about this election. I think that we have a great chance of winning. It's clearly an upset because I was outspent 10-1, but by God's grace, I had enough to get on lots of radio, lots of billboards, lots of signs, lots of grassroots all over the state. And so that's been really, really exciting. The people that we've met have been fantastic. There's been amazing friendships that have been forged that just aren't going to be lost all over the state. And so I do want you to get out and vote for me. I want you to also talk to other people. If you like what you heard today, don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone else, I heard Frank Mylar today, and I'm going to vote for him, because there's radical differences between the other competitors. And that's just so important for you to understand that. One person spent their almost entire legal career in the legislative branch in political appointed positions for senators. And they are political. Every time you work for a senator, I'm going to tell you, it's politically appointed. The other person has spent half their time working in the executive branch. Yeah. And that is also, and one was for the League of Cities and Towns as deputy director, and that's fine, but this is an attorney position. I've done every year of my practice as my career, all 37 have actually been practicing law. And that's radically different. I've also, like I said, have the MBA. I also have the criminal law experience that they do not have. But the most important thing, I want you to understand that if you haven't had your rights violated, you might not know really what I'm talking about. But if you ever had your rights violated and you had somebody help champion that until you won, you would realize, wow, we actually need a seasoned attorney, not a bureaucrat or lobbyist as our next AG. We do not want somebody that's going to be pushed around by the winds of either executive branch, the legislative branch, or the lobbyist branch. The lobbyist branch, of course, is a silent branch of government that actually, unfortunately, has way too much power, especially in Utah. And we need someone that's tough enough to stand up. I'm only going to do 2 terms. I don't care if I'm only 1 term. I'm going to do what's right. This is not a stepping stone for me. I'm not going to be running for some other office after the Attorney General. I think it's a stepping stone for my competitors. They're quite a bit younger than I am. And in any event, I'm 62, by the way. I'm in really good health. I run every day. And so some people, and I actually do 100 push-ups every day. So I actually stay very physically fit. I actually would challenge them to a run if I could, but I don't think I challenge them to push-ups as well. But I don't think that anyone would want to resolve the HE race that way. I wouldn't want to. I want us to resolve it by the fact that we're actually you need a competent attorney with the experience that's going to be able to stand up. And the other thing is, I've stood up to government.
Mhm.
I've stood up where I could potentially lose my job
Mm.
because I was doing what was right. And I think that then that's being tested. If you read in the Bible, David, before he fought Goliath, he had fought a bear and he had fought a lion. Now, I haven't actually fought a bear or a lion, but I actually have, in a way, in legal battles, in standing up for people's rights, standing up and getting potentially with the idea that I could be fired for doing what's right. In some ways, I have. I'm ready to fight Goliath because of my experience. Just like David, King David in the Bible, he had those experiences. And this is the big thing, that I was trusting God just like he was trusting God with the lion and the bear. That's radically a part of who I am. When I do something, I'm going to be praying. I'm going to be trusting God, and I actually want you guys, to be praying about this election and take it very, very seriously, because there's significant differences. Look at my website. Look at the things I stand for. Look at their website. They're going to say some of the same things, but they've never done it. Everything that I put in terms of these values that I support, I have basically fought for them, almost every one of them, in the courts.
Yeah.
And they have not fought for not one of your rights ever. And especially not been in a situation where they weren't going to charge for it. And that's where you show where your heart is. What someone's willing to do when they're not getting paid. That's, I think, shows you who they are.
This is really helpful. Thank you. I wanted to say a couple final things. One, in the background, thank you, Dwayne, for hosting this on Rumble, on X, on YouTube. I think there was a fourth platform or something like that. And then lastly, definitely vote tomorrow. Make sure that people know. So our website is Mylar, the number 4ag.com. Very easy to access. And if you have people that who are still kind of vacillating, not even sure if they want to vote tomorrow, make sure they know that there actually is a candidate who has vindicated people's constitutional rights in this state and prioritizes that, and has done so for the past 24 years of his own private practice. I think that's really helpful. Mylar 4, the number 4ag.com. Any final things, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that you're able, through the airwaves here, to actually hear my heart. I really care about fighting for people's rights. It is not speculation. It is not theoretical. It's what I do. It's who I do. I'm an honor corps attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom. I got that status by spending thousands of hours vindicating people's constitutional rights without charging them. Alliance Defending Freedom is the most significant organization in our country that helps defend people's constitutional rights. And that's what I'm going to do. They're the leading edge of fighting against Title IX. I'm really, really, really upset that Utah didn't do the easy step of joining one of two states. Louisiana. Louisiana brought a lawsuit against the Biden administration trying to change the regs. 4 states got the benefit of that preliminary injunction that says that the regs do not apply in Louisiana, in Mississippi, in Idaho, and Montana. So our neighbors to the north get the benefit of it because their AG was smart enough to join in. There was another suit in, I think it was Virginia. 6 states, 6 in that case joined in. They have the benefit. You know what we did? We did something very foolish. We decided, let's call a legislative session. That does not get around the problem. You still need to fight this in court. Whatever the legislature says and whatever the governor signs, you think that Biden's going to care? No. He's going to say, we'll just cut your funding. I mean, it's crazy what we just did. You guys have been sold a bill of goods by the leaders in this state, if you think that passing that law is going to get us out of this Title IX thing with Biden, nope. We need to fight this out in court. We
Wow.
need to say that these regs do not apply like these other 10 states in our country. There's 9 cases, by the way, fighting Title IX all over the country. The Alliance Defending Freedom is involved in 6 of those 9.
Wow.
2/3. Why does Utah never, ever call up Alliance Defending Freedom? Why does our attorneys general act like their wisdom all ends with them and they don't need to ask for outside help? The best experts in the country, I should submit, they are the best experts in the country at fighting these. There's no expert at fighting for women's sports in the AG's office right now. The expertise is going to be with people like the Alliance Defending Freedom. That's who I want to bring in immediately to make sure that we protect girls' sports and bathrooms and showers. And we need to just be firm on that. And I'm the only one that's raising that as an issue. And that's been this entire campaign. That has been true. If you want somebody that's really going to fight for your rights, then you need to vote for Frank Mylar for Attorney General. And I ask you to do that. Please not only vote for me, but spread the word that this is someone that will really fight for your rights.
Yep.
Thanks,
everyone. Mylar4ag.com, Mylar, the number 4ag.com. We will end it with that. Thank you all for showing up. If you've just shown up, obviously this is going to still be on the YouTube link as well. So rewatch it and share it with your friends as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you. Bye.